This is the SEO Mindset podcast with your hosts, Sarah and Tazmin Suleiman. This podcast is for SEO professionals, and each week, with the help of our wonderful guests, we discuss the important stuff that actually affects our careers and progression, but sadly often doesn't get talked about. You know, the invaluable soft and interpersonal skills that are often taken for granted, such as the skills we need for listening, time management, communication, and more. We also talk about the big issues that affect us and our careers, such as burnout, imposter syndrome, self-belief, saying no, plus other big issues and obstacles. With this podcast, we want to share knowledge on topics that unlock our listeners' true potential and enhance not only their careers, but all parts of their lives. So, are you ready to prioritize your own personal growth and career development? Then let's crack on with this week's episode. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the SEO Mindset podcast, where your hosts are myself, Sarah, and Sarah McDowell. Should probably give myself my last name as well, and my wonderful co-host, Tazmin Suleiman. Now, how many times have you heard others excusing bad behaviour? Yeah, I think it's common at work, but also in personal life. And that is what we are talking about today. We are going to be talking about why we need to stop excusing others' bad behaviour, and even our own, I suppose, even our own sometimes. Now, before I invite Tazmin to join me, just want to remind you that if you are enjoying the podcast and what me and Tazmin are doing, you can support us. First things first, we are set up on Buy Me a Coffee, which is a platform enabling creators like me and Tazmin to receive donations, one-off payments from yourself. So go and check the link out in the show notes. And we also would love it if you could share our podcast and episodes with anyone and everyone. So the next time that you're listening to an episode and you're thinking, "Core blimey, this is a corker. I want to share this with Sheila." I don't know if you know a Sheila. You might not know a Sheila, but you want to share it with someone, find the link and do it, whether that's in a WhatsApp message, Facebook Messenger, or even ringing them up and telling them. So there you go. Right. Let's welcome Tazmin to join in on the conversation. Hello, Tazmin.
Hello, Sarah. I do not know a Sheila. So I was thinking, do I know a Sheila?
I know a Sheila, and the reason why I have Sheila in my brain is it's one of Tasha's family members, and it's her birthday, so everyone was saying happy birthday, Sheila. So I've just got the name in my head.
Oh, how are you?
Yes, I'm good. We've both got our cuppers,
yes,
haven't
we?
we?
Have indeed. Important part of podcasting. Have a cup on the side.
Well, it does help soothe the vocal cords, doesn't it? And my mug, I'm repping Benny the dog. There you go, look. Yeah. I realised that people who are listening, that they can't see anything. So just imagine a mug with a dog picture on.
A very cute
there you go.
dog.
Any dog.
Very cute.
Pick your breed.
I've got my husband's mug because it's got an H on it.
How will Hussein feel about that?
I'm sure he'll be fine. He's one of the most chilled people I know. If people think I'm chilled, they should meet him.
Something that we should probably say, and I feel really bad because I've forgotten what the word you say. You're meant to wish people this, but it's fasting time, isn't it?
It is
for some of our listeners. So what are you meant to say? There's something that you're meant to say when it kicks off.
We would say Ramadan Mubarak. So it is greeting and wishing the other person a joyful and blessed Ramadan. And on a slightly side note today, I saw something that really hit me. They said there are different levels of fasting. There's a physical, the mental, and the spiritual. So the physical is about not eating and not drinking, but the mental ties in very well with our podcast, is refraining from negative thinking. So
Ah,
that's really clever. So
it's very, very clever.
no
There
negative
you
thoughts
go.
between the hours of sunrise and sunset.
Let's all do that
Yeah.
together. So, yeah, wishing all of our listeners who are taking part in Ramadan, yeah, good luck. And, well, do you say good
Well,
luck? Best
best
wishes?
wishes. Sounds good. And if you have any Muslim friends, they
Wonderful.
may have a visit my mosque to have. Now, the word that you would use for breaking your fast, the meal, is called iftar. So we have one on Saturday at our mosque, and I'm going to, after this, go over to the next door neighbours and invite them along, because there's a bring a friend, bring your neighbours, come share a
Ah,
meal with us
that
day.
sounds wonderful. Sounds wonderful. Right, I suppose we best get into this week's topic. We've been chatting for a while, and yeah, we've not even scratched the surface yet. So, in my very professional sounding intro, I introduced that this week's topic is all about stopping excusing others' bad behavior. So, how many times has someone's behavior been excused? So, how many times have you heard someone say, you know what they're like, or they've got a bit on their plate right now, or their family, or they're the boss, they're the CEO, they're the founder. So, however it's packaged, we often, yeah, and I often hear this is where you hear excuses for others' bad behavior. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm going to want to start with a caveat. We all have bad days, yeah? We all have those days where something's gone wrong, something's happening, or something's not going quite right for you, and we snap at someone or we act out of character. Now, as long as we're always apologizing and taking accountability for that behavior, then that's a step in the right direction. But what I'm talking about here is where there's a repetition of bad behavior, so where it's a constant, yeah. And this bad behavior can take different forms. So it can be manipulation, disrespect, aggression, or dishonesty. So yeah, Tasman, it'd be really good to get your thoughts at this stage of what I've sort of said so far.
No, I'm seeing a lot of this in my clients who are managed by people who are really great performers for the company, but are not very good people managers. So they're really impacting my clients' mental health, sense of self, and it's excused. People in the industry, people in that company are excusing the manager's bad behavior because they're really good at what they do. That's just the way they are, because they don't want to rock the boat. They don't want the performance, but they are, you would think that then they are willing to sacrifice the mental health of the direct reports. And it's just not okay. You know,
It's not
no, it
okay.
isn't, and makes me quite angry, because I feel like when managers are given um, their targets, or this is the strategy and this is what we want you to achieve, part of it should be um, the happiness of their team, or the mental
Hmm.
health of their team. Because if we're going to take it seriously, because everyone says, "Oh, mental health is really important. We really care about our employees." Well, start putting all of that in your strategy. Did I sound a bit angry there?
Exactly. And no, I mean, passionate. And I'm with you. Like, the whole reason I came up with this episode, and this is really passionate for me to talk about as well, because it is important. And it's not just because, so there's loads of research out there which proves if you've got happy employees, they're more productive, the workers are better, the workers are of a higher standard, and basically the efficiency is better. But it's also important because it can help foster better relationships, avoid any toxic work environments or toxic situations, or toxic vibes or atmosphere outside of work with your personal relationships and things like that. It can make sure that everyone is respected and they feel that they're respected. Do you know what I mean? And they're not just there to do a job. They're a human being. They're a human being at the end of the day, right? And helps with mental health and well-being, which is what you've already said. So it's so important, because everything that I've just said is like, it matters. It matters to everyone at the end of the day. And I think what's probably worthwhile doing now, Tazmin, is sort of exploring some reasons why some behaviour can be excused. So I'm going to give some examples, but yeah, please interject with anything that you're thinking of as well. But I'm sort of thinking that maybe some people don't like confrontation. That used to be me. Yeah. I used to say so many times, oh, I don't like confrontation. I'll just leave it. It doesn't matter. And I noticed that I used to say that a lot, whereas now I don't, because I know why it's important. I know that having self-respect for myself is important as well. There might be this desire to avoid conflict or avoid any potential arguments or fallout. Maybe there's an element of people having low self-esteem, which is really sad to even think about, isn't it? That someone who has low self-esteem issues is allowing that kind of behavior and allowing themselves to be spoken to in a certain way. It kind of breaks your heart a little. Or another interesting aspect is societal norms. You know what I mean? Like, that can be as an excuse. What are you thinking,
I
Tasmin?
think one of the examples that I've been confronted with recently is an individual created a report, and there was one part of it that was wrong. Most of it was right, but there was one part of it that was wrong. And the manager was quite derogatory about it. And because they said, oh, yeah, but I did that one thing wrong. Yes, you did. We all make mistakes, but that doesn't mean that you can excuse the behavior. So they are almost saying, well, we deserved it. We deserved to be disrespected.
Yeah.
And that is not nice, not okay.
Yeah. And I mean, especially in the SEO industry and the SEO sector, like, things happen, mistakes happen, or sometimes situations happen that are outside of our control. So core algorithm updates, I mean, Google just announced one this week, which means that some people will be worrying because they'll see a drop in website traffic. But it's never an excuse to talk to employees or your team in a way that's not respectful, because, like, it's just not on, is it? And if anything, it would just end up causing resent. And also, surely it's better to foster sort of an environment where risks can be taken, and if it doesn't work or if a mistake is made, you're not shouted at or you're not treated in a bad way. Obviously, take accountability and be like, yeah, look, my bad. But it's all about fostering a safe environment for people, because that's when they thrive, isn't it? And that's when they feel most at ease to be awesome at their jobs.
And also, if you flip it. So, using the work environment again, if you're a leader, a manager, and something has gone wrong, and you shout at that member of your team, all right, they might fix that, but what have you achieved? Have you increased their trust in you? No. Have you increased the likelihood that they're going to go that extra mile for you? No. We had that episode about loud and quiet quitting. Remember, a little
I do. I'm gonna add it to the show
that'd be
notes, so
yeah.
then people can find that. But that's a great shout.
So you've actually lost out. And if we use a personal example, if you're a parent and you have shouted at your child because they have made a mistake, or if you're in a relationship and you have shouted at your partner because they've messed up with something, that's still somebody that you're living with. So, what does that do to the relationship? There's no need for it, there is no benefit to it. I know, like you said, caveat, sometimes you have a bad day. And if you've had a bad day and you've shouted at somebody, well, you know what? Take responsibility of that and do your apologies and work on that.
Mm, mm. Completely. And it's okay to admit fault in those situations as well, because again, it fosters this whole, um, it fosters that behavior of apologizing for bad behavior, doesn't it? Because at the end of the day, how you make someone feel is really important.
Mm,
Like, I would hate if my actions or my comments or anything like that had a negative impact on someone and that ended up affecting their self-esteem, because that's just
mm,
awful, isn't it, at the end of the
yeah.
day? So I think we've come to a nice break, a nice pause. But yeah, I just want to reiterate that really no one's winning with bad behavior, are they? That's the main sort of takeaway here. Like, it's a lose-lose situation if you are excusing bad behavior. So what we're going to do is me and Tasmin are going to take a short break. But when we are back, we're going to give you easy to implement strategies of how to deal with bad behavior. So we've addressed it. We've said it's bad. It needs to be fixed. Join us for part 2 because we'll help you fix them. Hi, Sarah here from the SEO Mindset. Just a quick reminder that if you do enjoy the podcast and what me and Tasmin are doing, you can support by donating as little as £5 to us via our Buy Me a Coffee page. Just head on over to the seomindset.co.uk/donate. There will be a link to that page in this episode's show notes. And also, we'd love it if you shared our podcast with others. The more listeners we get, we can continue to find awesome guests to join us for episodes and talk about important topics. So, the next time you are listening to an episode and think someone would enjoy, tell them. Open up the episode in your app, find the share button, and you will be able to copy the link to the episode and send it to them via WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger, Slack. There's so many ways that you can help us spread the word. Me and Tasmin have some very exciting news. You are invited to an evening of authenticity, empowerment, and connection. We're doing a live podcast, The Importance of Being Authentically and Unapologetically You, on Wednesday, the 24th of April from 8 p.m. until 11 at Projects The Lanes in Brighton. That's right. We're recording a podcast in front of a live audience. Come and join us and our guest speakers for a very important conversation about embracing your true self, why it's important, and strategies you can implement. It's absolutely free to attend. There will be pizza and drinks courtesy of our amazing sponsors. During the live podcast, we'll have a Q&A session where you can join in with the conversation, ask questions, and share your own insights and experiences. You'll also have the chance to connect and network with fellow SEO professionals. So whether you're attending Brighton SEO or happen to live or be in the area, this is the perfect event for you. A huge shout out to our sponsors, Systrix and Stat Search Analytics, for their generous support. And let's not forget to thank Silicon Brighton for helping us organise this incredible gathering, and Projects for providing the perfect venue. This event would not be possible without you guys. So what are you waiting for? Click the link in the show notes to secure your tickets now. And don't forget to help us spread the word and tell your friends. We shall see you there. Thank you for joining us back for the second part. Tasmin, did you enjoy your nice little siesta, was what I was going to call it, but that's not the proper use of that term.
Well, I did not have a siesta. I actually had my thinking cap on because wasn't there another episode on that's relevant on emotional intelligence? We had one by Amar
Yes,
Farisha.
yeah,
That was a good one. Yeah.
yeah, definitely. So again, check the link in the show notes for that, because there's so many. I think because this podcast has been going for over a year now, isn't it? We've got
Nearly 2
over
years.
80 episodes.
Nearly 2 years.
Nearly 2
It's going to be our
years.
second year
And over
birthday
80.
soon.
Woo! Yeah, we've got over 80 episodes, so there's always going to be sort of crossovers, isn't there, in the conversations and stuff. So yeah, check that out. So we've got the quiet and loud quitting in the description, in the show notes, and also the importance of emotional intelligence. Okay, so are we ready to fix bad behavior, Tazmin?
Let's fix it.
Okay, I've got some steps to walk you through, talk about. Please do interject at any time. So, first things first, recognize the bad behavior. Yeah. So, reflect. If you come away from a situation or a conversation that doesn't sit right with you, or you can feel in your gut, like your gut is there for a reason, right? Gut feelings are there to protect you. Listen to your body, it's self-awareness. So if you feel like you've been treated in a poor way or someone's behavior has a negative impact on you, recognize it. And take time to recognize it as well. Journaling is always a good one. So you could get your thoughts out on paper and explore why it affected you and the feelings, and talk about that bad behavior.
Is it the second brain, your gut?
Yeah. Yes. It's an important one. Then next up is setting boundaries. Yeah. Very important to set boundaries. So here you need to think what your boundaries are. Okay. So where do you draw the line? What is acceptable and what is not? What can you ignore and what can't you ignore? Yeah. And this is personal to you. You're not going to get this wrong because it's how you're feeling. Like, don't feel like you have to call everything up, but just what are your boundaries around this? What are your non-negotiables, and what boundaries do you need to set in place? And have a think about what those boundaries are. Like, maybe it's a certain way that you're being spoke to. Maybe it's terms that are being used. Yeah. Your boundaries are your boundaries. Set them, and they should be respected. People should respect your boundaries because they're your personal boundaries that you've put in place. Next up, and this is the tricky one, is addressing the behavior directly. And again, I'm going to recommend another podcast episode because this really nicely links in. And it's when we had Loretta Milan on the podcast to talk about how to handle difficult conversations. So again, that link is in the show notes. But if you listen to that episode, it will help you to address that behavior. But some things to say here: have a conversation with that person. Make sure it's not in the heat of the moment. Yeah. Make sure it's not when all the emotions are rife and raw. Take time have some time to breathe, both take yourself away from the situation. And it also gives you time to plan how you're going to address the behavior, because what you don't want to end up with is a massive argument or conflict happening. Now, you can't control everything. You can't control how that person's going to react. But again, you can control how you want to react. So you can have a very calm conversation with them. But if it starts to feel like it's getting out of hand, or again, listen to your gut. Yeah. If it's starting to feel like it's getting a bit, tensions are rising, stop and just say, let's pause, let's stop. Because again, you don't have to stay in that situation. If you're trying to address something and it's not getting anywhere, or that person is defensive or they're shouting, you don't have to take it. Yeah. Respect yourself. And it also leads back to those boundaries that you put in place. Yeah. You can just say, I don't want to talk about this anymore. I feel uncomfortable. I'm going to walk away. Or if it's on Teams, end the call. What you must do is give chance for that person to have their say. Yeah. Listen. So obviously have your say, and that person needs to respect you and your boundaries to listen to what you have to say, but make sure that you're giving them the same respect back. So when they are sort of, I don't know, they're explaining or they're giving their point of view, listen to them. Now, obviously, again, it's going to lead back to your boundaries, but you've got to kind of think, what do you want out of this conversation? Yeah. So do you want a sorry? Do you want an apology? Do you want to set some sort of consequence? Do you want to put in place a strategy so it doesn't happen again? So yes, while you need to listen to them, you also need to think what you need to get out of it. Because if when they're just talking, they're just giving you excuses again of why they behaved in a certain way, yes, it's good to know, but make sure that you're getting what you want. Yeah. That you're respecting your boundaries and that person knows what you want as well. Seek support. So obviously these conversations are tricky. These kind of conversations are hard to have. So who can you lean on? Is there someone, so if it's in a work setting, is there someone that you can talk to at work? Is there support there? Like find out who in a work professional setting can have your back. Outside of the work setting, who can you talk to? Is it a partner, a family member, your best mate, for example? Always have your support, because you're gonna be feeling a lot of emotions, and you need to be able to confide in someone and talk about how you're feeling and get it out of your system. Don't push it down. And you also need to focus on your own self-care. So what can you do to make yourself feel good? What is it after the situation has happened? What can you do to make yourself feel good? Is that taking yourself for a walk, getting out to get some fresh air? Is it watching your favorite Netflix TV series that you're watching? Is it reading a book? Maybe it's having a biscuit. Do you know what I mean? Whatever it is, it's going to make you feel happy. Do it, and do it straight after the situation has happened, but also after you've had this conversation. Because even if the conversation goes well, and ideally it will, you're still going to have some emotions and feelings to deal with. And the last step is always know when to walk away. So there are some people that are just stubborn. Yeah. There are people in the world that won't want to hear your side of it. They, for whatever reason, they're just stuck in their way of thinking and they're not budging. Yeah. There always comes a point where you need to think to yourself, is this worth it? I'm bending over backwards here. I'm trying to get my point across, but it's just not working. It is okay to walk away. Yeah. You don't have to fix everything. And again, you can't control how that other person's going to take the feedback, the information, or anything like that. So it's okay to walk away. You don't owe, the only person you owe something to is yourself. Yeah. So, Tazmin, what are you thinking?
So,
Anything to
so
add?
much, so much. So one of the things I wanted to add to addressing the behaviour directly, lots of really great points that you had made. One I wanted to add is write down the key points that you want to bring up, because in the heat of the moment you may forget what you wanted to say, and stick to just that incident. Don't bring up everything that happened in the past. There is a space for that, but keep this example just to that incident. Focus on self-care. Absolutely. We've got another episode, the different types of self-care that we can link in the show notes. But this is something that we should be doing every single day. Self-care is not what you do when you are breaking, it's what you do every day to help you from breaking. And I wanted to add an example of one of my clients. Now, she was working with somebody who was very toxic, and something happened. And she and I had been going through different strategies, and I was so happy and proud of her when she relayed to me what had happened. So she made a boo boo, and her manager came down a ton of bricks, and she said to her manager, "There is nothing that you can say that I am not already saying to myself. Can we postpone whatever you want to say now till tomorrow? Because I have to fix this, and I'm going to be able to fix it better without the lecture you're going to give me. So we'll set up a time for tomorrow." So she said, I sat down and I fixed what I needed to fix. Then the next day, they had a conversation, recognized that actually she wasn't entirely at fault. And even when the manager went through those things, they also messed up, saying, "Oh, you have to do it like this." And then when they dived in deeper, they thought, "I actually know, I've also made a mistake." So then she said, "If you, who have been here 10 years, are making a mistake, how do you expect me to get it right the first time? And I've been trained on this once, and wasn't even, and it was a handover situation. And 6 months later, I get asked to do this job. How am I going to get it right?" And then she used that example to say to her manager, "You always say to me, when I'm stuck, come to me with the problem. But if this is the way you're acting, why would I want to come to you?" So she then showed the manager the consequences of their behavior and said, "Actually, what we need here is a procedure. We need a document that so everybody knows how to deal with this report." So that again made me really proud, because she took the emotion out of it and said, "Here is the job. Here is why it didn't work for you or for me. This is what we can put in place. And when you threw me under the bus in front of your manager and his manager and her manager and, you know, King Charles as well and everyone else, um, you've now impacted my reputation in front of all of these people. So now what do we do?"
Mm.
And then they set up a meeting with the manager's manager to talk about the incident and get that ironed out. Brilliant, wasn't
I mean, round of
it? Round
applause
of
for that
applause, yeah.
person.
Wonderful.
I mean, that's textbook how to deal with that kind of
Yeah.
situation, isn't it?
But
And it goes to show that a positive outcome can come out of it as well.
they've had to. Yes, absolutely. Everything you've said is true. But they have had to go through crying. They've had to find help. They've
Mm.
had to wrangle through this situation. And something as I say as simple, I'm not saying that it's easy always for everybody, but teaching your managers about emotional intelligence, teaching your managers about how to navigate this situation and deal with their direct reports or anyone with respect and empathy and understanding is going to save your company so much money, because you'll need less money for all of those mental health plans that you put in place. So don't
And I think, yeah. And I think another thing as well is that you have to take your own feelings away from it. So say for example, I'm just saying, so what I mean here is, say for example someone's come to you to address some bad behavior. So maybe you've upset someone or you've made someone feel a certain way. Never make that person feel silly or small for bringing how they're feeling up, because just because you're used to a certain way of working, or just because you're thinking, wow, that wouldn't offend me. It's just work chat at the end of the day. That's you. It's not that other person. And isn't it much better to have a much more supportive, welcoming, untoxic environment for everyone at the end of the day?
Yeah, you won't get me disagreeing with any of that, Sarah. I completely agree.
Yeah. And it just all, and I mean, I get that, because that's another excuse, isn't it? Like, oh, I don't have the emotional intelligence, or I'm not that empathetic. Do something about it then. Do you know what I mean? Especially if you're a manager, or especially if you are a CEO or own a company, because how your employees or how your team members or your colleagues feel is so important. It's essential. Like, sort it
Yeah,
out, I
yeah, no
suppose.
excuse. Absolutely no excuse.
No excuse. No excuse at all, especially with the SEO Mindset podcast, right, Tazmin?
Absolutely.
Because we've got a plethora of episodes.
Yeah,
If you want to learn about emotional intelligence, there's one in the
yeah.
show notes. There you go. Share that with your boss if you need to.
And just drop it into the conversation. I think this is really good too. Actually, you know what? The SEO Mindset podcast should be on all organizations' set of resources.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, big plans, isn't there,
Big
Tasman?
plans.
The SEO mindset's going to take over. But yeah. Right. I'm very sorry, because this is a very passionate, I could tell, and our listeners could probably tell that this is very important to us.
Absolutely.
But we are running out of time. We are running out of time. So, Tasman, as always, I'm going to ask you, what is your main takeaway from today's episode, please?
If you feel that you are being mistreated or spoken badly, don't put up with it. It's not worth your own self
Mm-hmm.
respect. It's not worth your mental health. It's not okay. No matter what you did, no matter what happened, no matter who your manager is, it's not okay. And don't put up with it. And hopefully, you've got some tips and advice and action points from this podcast that will help you deal with them.
100%. And I don't know why, but Aretha Franklin, RESPECT, came into my head, because that would be a good anthem for this episode, wouldn't it? Respect yourself.
Absolutely.
There you go. I just had to check that I spelled respect right. RESPECT. Is
And
that
even
right?
if it's not, it's
Who
okay,
knows?
Sarah.
Save
Yeah.
space. Oh, wonderful. Yeah. Great takeaway. Great summary. Thank you, Tasman. And thank you for joining in on this conversation. And as ever, your wise golden nuggets are always a wonderful addition. Now, we are at the end. We are at the end of this week's episode, but we wanted to talk about something first, which is very exciting, isn't it,
Yes, it is.
Tasman?
So exciting.
I feel like we need a drum
Go
roll.
on.
Should we try and make a drum? I don't know if you're going to have to hit it really loud.
Well, let's just.
Did you hear that?
Sort of.
Take it away, Tasman.
Oh dear. So, do you want me to talk about it? Should I start?
Take it away.
Oh wow. So, for those who know, I don't know. I'm on the spot here. Sarah and I are doing another live podcast in Brighton. So this is something we started last year in April as a bit of a whim. It'd be nice to have a live podcast, and suddenly it happened, didn't it, Sarah? It was like no time at all. And then we did another one in was it September, October last? I can't remember now.
I don't think it really matters too
But
much,
we
does
are
it?
doing another one,
Sometime.
I believe April the 26th, 4th. Oh, Sarah,
It's the
the
Wednesday.
Wednesday,
Sorry, it's the Wednesday before Brighton
24th
SEO.
of April, at Brighton, the night before Brighton SEO kicks off. We'll be doing another live podcast, same place. You can put a link in the show notes for this. Yeah.
Yes, there will be a link in the show notes.
And we're going to
Yeah.
be talking about how to be authentically yourself and unapologetically authentically yourself. It's going to be a great night. It's
Yeah.
going to be a great night.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you want to join us, I mean, if you're in Brighton, you don't have to be attending Brighton SEO. You might just happen to be in the Brighton area. So come on down and join us. We're feeding you. There's free pizza, free drinks. We're also trying to sort out a musician as well. So it's a great event, and it'd be wonderful for you to join us. So yeah, definitely check the link in the show notes, as you'll have all the information there, and you can register yourself a spot, because once tickets are gone, they are gone. And they're already going quite quickly, aren't they,
They
Tazmin?
are, they are. And you know what? I think everyone who has been to one of these events has said how relaxed it is, how cozy it is, how it's that safe space. And what blows me every single time away is that when we do the Q&A, people are happy to talk about their experiences, they share tips, and it's such a lovely atmosphere.
Yeah, 100%. So join us. Come. We'd love to see you there. Right, Tasmin, let's say goodbye and until next time.
Goodbye, everyone. Thank you so much for listening.
Take care of yourself.